What's going on, Canes fans? Welcome back to Canes Crew. We haven't seen you in a few weeks, but we have a lot to talk about. As we know, season didn't wrap up quite as we had anticipated or hoped for, but we've now had an entry draft where we picked up some players. That's right, Andy. That's the clean way to say what happened. So we had the entry draft. We got some new kids that will be in the pipeline. None of them expected to make the roster quite that fast for next season to know what we've got out of them. But we have some really good signings, some really big signings, and we've lost some guys. So who wants to go first? Christian, thoughts just on how the season ended before we jump into all the big news?
So my reflections on the previous season, I predicted that heading into that season that we're going to get beat by the Panthers because I could see that we were just not as good of a team. And I think that proved itself out on the ice. And unfortunately, there was a gap between Florida and Carolina, both in terms of physicality and in terms of skill. Blue line, forwards, you look at it, Florida was better. And they were a house, but also they were better than any other team in the NHL. So it's not like we were the only team who was bested by Florida. So they deserved to win. They were the best team in the NHL. They got the Stanley Cup. But the real question is, can we reach that level? Can we be competitive? Can we be at their level heading into this offseason?
Andy, thoughts on that?
Yeah, obviously disappointing that, the way it turned out. At least we got that one victory, so people will leave us alone about the haven't won a game in the Eastern Conference Finals for how many were 16 in a row or 15 in a row, I guess it was at one point. But yeah, like Christian said, like Florida, they were just the better team. I think the big difference between us and them was their ability to finish their chances off of the other team's mistakes. I've never seen a team be able to capitalize the way they did. Any chance that the other team, like any little mistake, they were able to pick up on, it was in the back of their net. I was watching a postseason interview with Rod Brindamore, and he said the exact same thing. And it's true. Like, I actually didn't think, outside of maybe one game in that Florida series, I don't think they were like just taking it to us, those games. I think they just finished their chances. When they got their chances, they were in the back of our net. Now, I think that was the huge difference. I have no clue how they do that, but I think that was the main difference there. If you look at, possession, ice time, chances, whatnot, relatively even, except I believe, like, was it game 2 or game 3? I can't remember, where we looked awful. But beyond, goaltending outplayed us. And then, they're just finishing their chances. I also note that, we were playing 2 rookie defensemen, and they had all their veterans in there, which was, I think, putting 2 guys that have never really played in the playoffs right in there in the Eastern Conference Finals. Those are the defenses, a position that you can't really mess around with during the playoffs. Whereas, like, if you have a forward that's a rookie, it's a little easier to hide them versus, you only have six defensemen. You can't really hide them during the playoffs. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, Andy. That Sean Walker injury was really detrimental to the Hurricanes' chances.
Chatfield was even worse before. Obviously he didn't even play in that series at all. But Chatfield, I think it's a slightly different. Maybe that's the same result, but I think it's a slightly different outcome. At least game. Maybe we make it a game 6 or so if Chatfield's in there.
Yeah. I don't disagree at all. But yeah, I also agree with Christian. Like, it was obvious that they were the better team consistency wise. I think we had spurts where we looked better than them, right? We had, game 5 before we got eliminated, we looked like the better team in the first period, and it wasn't even close. We looked like the better team. But my biggest thing and biggest takeaway from that series and what they did to Edmonton, mental warfare. They just did that better than any team maybe I've ever seen. It kind of reminds me of the old Boston teams where, like, you might get the better of us a little bit, but you're going to pay for it. We're going to beat you up. We're going to get in your head. We're going to make you take stupid penalties. And Maurice seems to be, in the head of Rod Brendamore too, with, not shaking the hands and then shaking the hands of the coach in the series previously and the series ending the cup clinching series where he shook hands with both coaches.
He's the most insufferable human being I've ever laid eyes upon. I cannot stand Maurice. He thinks he's the most clever dude in the world.
Yeah, I didn't have any hate toward him until he won the second one, and the way he went about it and what he said and everything was what bothered me and got underneath my skin. Hopefully, Rod keeps that in the back of his mind and helps him draw some stuff up for next season. And as we look into next season, the Canes add Ehlers earlier today or yesterday. If you're watching this on July 4th, happy 4th of July weekend. Hopefully everyone's enjoying a rather long weekend off. But we also add Keandre Miller. That one is one I definitely did not see coming. We had heard the Ehlers thing. Even towards the end of last season, I felt like we heard that the Canes may be in on somebody like that, maybe. I don't know if it was too specific, but fellas, here it is. 6 years, $8.5 million AAV, average annual or average, what does that stand for again?
Average annual value.
Value, that's it. There you go. Average annual value. Shouldn't even have gone with that if I didn't know that off the top of my head. But I was like, oh wait, I'm getting to the V, and I'm like, I realize I'm drawing a blank here. Anyway, take it from here, Christian. Tell us about Nikolai and what he's going to bring to the team next season, or what you think of the deal.
I think in a bubble, in a vacuum, I think it's a little pricey per year. If you're just looking at what his value is being 29 years old and what he's been able to produce in his career, I think 8.5 is maybe a touch high. But if you look at it with everything else considered, the fact that we have a ton of money, we still have after this $10 million to play with. B, the salary cap is only going up in leaps and bounds over the course of the next few years. And C, he was far and away the best free agent prospect after Marner and all of the other pending free agents all got signed by their respective teams. Nikolai Ehlers became far and away the best prospect. So when you take all of those things into consideration, you knew his price tag was going to be a little higher. And so, yeah, it's fair. I think it's a fair price. I don't think that this price tag is going to end up hurting the Hurricanes long term. He's around for 6 years, which will take him into his 35-year-old season. But he's been in the model of consistency. He's scored over 20 goals for most of the years of his career so far. We can see it here. And so I don't see this contract hurting him. And the other big thing is he brings something that the Hurricanes desperately need, a proven high skill scorer and puck distributor. We've got a lot of guys who are grinders and who will put in dirty goals. But this guy is a bit of finesse, a bit of skill that we've lost, especially I think like when Teravainen went out the door. I think this is like Teravainen's replacement in a sense.
Nice. Andy, people don't like to sign here in Carolina. So how did this happen?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I heard too. No, I mean, obviously that was always stupid from the media and other fan bases. I like the signing. Like Christian said, I think it's pretty pricey, but I think it's fair given the market. I think if we would have signed him at somewhere $9 million plus, I probably wouldn't have liked that. It would have been an overpay, in my opinion. To Christian's point, I think he's actually more of a replacement, kind of more in the vein of Natchez. The way he skates into the zone, which is what we've been desperately missing, especially on the PowerPoint. I think that's a big reason why they brought him in as well. I think he's great with the puck. Again, he's a good distributor, like Christian said, but he can also put the puck in the net, which Tavo, he did. I mean, I guess he had every once in a while, he may have had 20, 30 goal season. But this guy's pretty consistent. on that fact that he's going to give you 20 to 30 goals every single year. If he can stay healthy, because he's had a few seasons where he missed quite a few games. So hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy this year. Be real nice. But I think he slots right in on the first line right away.
Yeah, I feel like that's where you got to put him. I mean, the nice part was I didn't realize, obviously he's a good player. He's a name player. A couple teams were in on him. What was really great to see is that, you're up against Washington, who's probably making one last push. As we know, Ovi will have his last season coming up. Was there a bigger play that they were trying to make in order to swindle him over there? And then we came out on top. So I already like the fact that, like you said, maybe a little teeny bit too much money, but not a lot. Again, it was market value at this point because everybody else is pretty much gone or re-signed with their team already. But, I mean, this is the 9th overall pick in his draft class too. So, we also have Taylor Hall, who was number 1. So we've got some guys that have had pedigrees coming into this league and then have continued to be at a top level of playing that are now coming together on this new form of the Hurricanes. I'm excited to see what plays out there. And we also have a guy being added to the back end in Keandre Miller. This is a guy that we've seen a little bit, obviously, having played the Rangers a few times now. Christian, talk to us about what you saw here. And we know this one's technically a sign and trade, not just a sign. But I'll bring that up as you get us rolling here.
Dominic, can I ask for a quick audible? Can we go real quick back to Ehlers before we jump on to Millers? Because I want to touch on something that Andy made a great point about his entries. He is an incredible skater, Nick Ehlers is. And when Nate just left the team, that really hurt our power play, our ability to gain entry in the offensive zone. And I think Nick Ehlers is really going to help out our power play 1 unit. He's going to be the guy that Rod looks to consistently bring the puck into the zone and hold it there. And I've heard some pushback that Nick Ehlers is not a big forechecker, and he's not. He's not a very physical guy. He doesn't get in on the forecheck. He's not like a Stankoven or somebody like that. But that being said, he is a hold up the puck and wait for guys to get open kind of guy in the offensive zone. He's a distributor, and you need guys like that. And he will fit well in our scheme because we spend so much time in the offensive zone. To have a guy who can really cycle well and distribute the puck well in the offensive zone, I think is going to help our offense quite a bit. So I just wanted to touch on that of what we should be looking for with Ehlers in terms of helping out our play next season. But jumping over to Miller now, yes, it was a sign and trade. Whenever there's a sign and trade, the interesting thing is this is technically a contract that he signed with the New York Rangers. Now, that being said, it gets confusing because the agent had to agree with it with the Hurricanes because we're the ones that are going to be paying it. But the Rangers had to be the ones to sign it because they're the only ones that could have offered him that additional 8th year because they had his rights. And only people who have your rights can give you 8-year contracts. So that's why the sign and trade. And then also, this is we needed, going into this offseason, the 2 biggest things that we needed a number 2 center, which Ehlers is not, that did not address that need. And we needed a number 2 defense, hopefully a right shot defenseman to play next to Jacob Slavin. This guy, Keandre Miller, is talented enough to be that number 2 heavy minute defensive player. He's only 25 years old, but he's not a right shot. And so the big question is going to be who plays on the right side, who's going to be playing on their offside, because right now we've got 4 lefties and 2 righties in our defensive pairs. But the last thing I just want to say about Keandre, he had a down year last year, but so did pretty much every New York Ranger. Obviously, New York gave up on him and did not want to give him the kind of money that they knew that he was going to get on the open market. But guys like this do not come along very often. A guy who's 6'5", 210 pounds, is an athletic freak and can skate like a horse out there. He has a motor and he is a strong, powerful strider on the ice. And I remember watching him in his early years with the Rangers. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, the Rangers are so lucky having a guy this young with this kind of talent out there. And he was also good with his stick. He actually reminded me a lot of Slavin in certain ways. His powerful stride, his ability to skate and motor up and catch up to guys. So I'm excited to see what the Hurricanes can do with this kind of talent. Yeah, he had a down year, but he's only 25, and he has shown in the past that he has what it takes. So I'm excited to see what he can be with the Hurricanes.
Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Christian pretty much said it all there. When I saw we were able to trade for him, I was very excited because I like Christian, I watched him in the past and I'm like, this dude 6'5", he's huge. He's a big dude. And he can skate like a horse, whatever that means, Christian. That doesn't sound like a good
Got
thing.
strong legs.
No, he's got a great stride. He's just smooth, agile, and he's got a long stick, as Pierre Maguire likes to say,
Like a horse.
like a horse. But anyways, no, he's great with the stick, and I'm stop with the innuendos there. But no, I think there's untapped potential as far as his offensive abilities go. I think he's a guy that can eventually play on maybe a second power play unit, or even the first if things go well. You saw there in his previous stats that he was a half a point game player back in 2 years ago. So he had a down year, and you can see his plus minus there. Like, it's not like he's a bad defensively either. There's a lot of complaints. I saw a lot of complaints from the New York Rangers fans that he had so many turnovers last year, which true, but years before that, he did not have that many turnovers. I've seen them complain about him not being physical enough for his body size. Well, he also had more hits than any of our defensemen in the last 4 years. So he's an upgrade for sure for us. I think we can, the way we play, and I think he's going to thrive in Rod's system. He's just he's got so much untapped potential that he could be one of the top defensemen in the league if he ends up reaching that potential for sure.
Yeah. Do you think he slots with Slavin and switches over to that other side and plays the offside?
I think he's going to be on the second unit. Just my thought is that he ends up. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think he ends up on the second unit. I don't think he's going to play with Slavin, but
we'll table that. We'll come back and look at the roster at the end.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of, and I didn't see this coming when we signed this guy, but this reminds me of when we got Chatfield. Chatfield, a strong skater, a good defender who was underevaluated, underutilized in his previous team. We didn't even have to give up anything. We just signed him, and he's flourished in our system. And this is the kind of guy that we look for. Tolsky talked all about this. We look for defenders who we value, defenders who are aggressive, but that also means that they have to skate back and catch up with guys who might get past them. And we're getting ready to see who we gave up here. Morrow didn't have those abilities. He's not that kind of skater. And I think the Hurricanes just saw that Morrow's just not going to quite fit in the kind of scheme that Rod and the team likes to run, Gleason likes to run. However, Miller is perfect for that. I think just like Chatfield, I think Miller's going to thrive here.
Well, I also think another one that this is actually very relevant is when we made the Brady Shea trade. We got him from New York. He was an underachieving New York Ranger defenseman.
Yep, great skater.
We traded for a first round pick, and we'll talk about what we gave up here in a second. But yeah, great skater. And when he came to the Canes, he reached a lot of that potential. He worked out great. He worked out great for us, and he signed a big deal in Nashville because of it. So I think and if you saw the video, there was like a video online on the Canes website that it was behind the scenes of the trade, and it had Tolsky in there and Rod in there, and he's like, yeah, this is a lot like Brady Shea. He reminds me a lot of Brady Shea.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of reactions to this, both from Hurricanes fans and Rangers fans alike, and I'm seeing a lot of mixed reviews. Um, I am seeing a lot of Rangers fans saying that the Hurricanes got completely fleeced on this trade. And their point is, well, it seems like that they had pretty much given up on Keandre Miller already. And the fact is that they got the conditional first round pick, which I believe is top 10 protected, and then a 2026 second round pick. But the big piece, in their opinion, is Scott Morrow. And I understand why, from their perspective, they think that they're getting an absolute steal here. He's a right shot defenseman. Those are not easy to find. He's an offensive defenseman. He can move the puck really well, and he has shown the ability to put it in the back of the net from the blue line. He's only 22 years old, so he has a lot of time to develop. So it's definitely a gamble for a team like the Hurricanes to give up on him. But that being said, Keandre Miller is only 3 years older, is 3 inches taller, maybe 4 inches taller, and is a good 30, 40 pounds heavier, and also plays a much physical game and has proven that he can handle 20 plus minutes a night on the NHL level and in the playoffs. Whereas Scott Morrow, again, we have to give him some slack. It was his very beginning of his rookie season. But he looked downright abysmal in the playoffs. He was awful. He was proving that. I mean, right now, as he looks like he's a fringe NHL player at best. Could he develop into something more? Absolutely. He's still very young. But the Hurricanes right now are getting the best player in the deal, and usually that means you're the winner of the deal. What do you guys think?
I agree. Andy?
Yeah, I agree with you, Christian. I think I was a little surprised that we also threw in a second rounder. I thought maybe it would be a third rounder if you're also including Scott Morrow, who's was one of our better prospects in our system. Again, like you mentioned, a right shot defenseman, which are hard to come by. So I was a little surprised that we also included a second round pick, but NHL draft, unlike the NFL draft, you're not necessarily getting a stud in the second round. It's way more hit or miss than probably almost any other draft outside of maybe MLB or something like that. So I know we'll talk about it a little bit later. I know we like to do is just basically just take a ton of shots in the draft. So I'm thinking they're thinking, well, we'll have another chance anyways to collect more draft picks at some point. So maybe it's not a big deal. But again, like Christian said, I think we definitely got the best player, currently the best player in the draft. Who knows what happens with Morrow? I think he will be an NHL player the majority of his career. But does he turn into a superstar or one of those really elite offensive defensemen? I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, a little early to say, but yeah, the early tests didn't pan out. I'm very excited for Miller. I want anybody who's going to bring any kind of physicality. And let's talk about the guys that we lost, because I'll compare them to Burns, right? We had this big, beastly defenseman who should have been intimidating everybody with his size and stature, and let's face it, didn't do it too much, right? We've got Stahl, KK, all three of them kind of did the same thing. They're all 6'4", 6'5" realm, but didn't take care of people physically as we would hope they would have, especially when it stepped up to the playoff times. But Burns was still a fan favorite. A lot of it had to do with the big beard. I know my son loved Burns, so sad to see him go. He's now with the Colorado Avalanche. Scott Morrow in the trade we just talked about. Riley Stillman, I mean, I'm going to get your guys' thoughts on that, about how much of a loss that is or isn't. And then Orlov, I think, we had our troubles with Orlov, but I think we all liked him as a guy that, was around the team. So I don't know. Which one do you guys think is the biggest loss here? Andy, we'll start with you down there.
Well, out of all those players, I think Morrow is obviously the biggest loss because we don't know his potential. As far as Riley Stillman, I think he was always a fringe NHL guy. You can find guys like him on the waiver wire. Orlov signed with San Jose today. at a 2-year deal, 6.5 per year. That's crazy town to me. That's absolutely nuts. Considering how he played last year. I think Orlov, like, again, good team guy. I think he's past his prime. He was atrocious in some of those playoff games. I believe
Yeah.
him was it him and Morrow that were paired together in that one game, and they were both just a disaster. We lost
So
the
bad.
game because of that, game 2, I believe.
Game
Um,
two.
anyways, I think I'm not going to miss his play at all. I think the whole reason he got that much money from San Jose is because they're just trying to hit the cap floor at this point. They're still $1 million away, so I think what they're thinking is, hey, we're going to throw some money at a veteran guy and tank this season. So, anyways, Christian, your thoughts?
He helped them do that.
Yeah.
I'll actually go with Brent Burns as the guy we're gonna miss the most. Yeah, when we signed him, he was already late in his career, but he gave it his all every single shift out there. He's an incredible locker room presence and example to the younger guys. And he's one of those locker room chemistry glue guys that you love to have that just sets the tone. And he just is tireless in terms of his work ethic off the ice. Like, he takes the best care of his body, except for maybe behind Andrei Svechnikov. And so it's great to have guys like that in the locker room to give examples for some of the younger guys. They're so like, hey, this guy's a future Hall of Famer and he's not taking any breaks. So what does that say about you? So I think in terms of his overall presence, we're probably going to miss Brent Burns the most. Unfortunately, though, just with each progressing year, his offense just started to nosedive. And to his credit, he did play a lot better defense in our system than I think we even thought he would. It helps to be paired with Jacob Slavin. But the offense that we were hoping for, especially in the power play, it really started to become non-existent. And he just ended up not being worth not only the contract, but he was just not worth the ice time that we were giving him because he was paired with Jacob Slavin. And in one way, I'm sad to see him go, but in another way, I'm kind of glad that it's not going to tempt Rod Brandamore to keep putting him out there for 20 plus minutes and having him keep his streak, his Iron Man streak going just because he loves veteran guys. Like this, I think maybe is Tulski's way of just like getting that poison pill out of Rod's hand or something. So, and in terms of Scott Morrow, I think that, obviously, it remains to be seen how good he is, but I don't think he was going to be a very good fit for our system. We've talked about this a little bit, but his skating just was not there. When the puck is on his stick, I was very impressed with him in the offensive zone. Like, he's very good with the puck. He reads the ice well, and he is creative. So we need more blue liners like that. But then in terms of getting back and playing defense, and like, he was getting manhandled, and he's kind of slow of foot. So that just didn't play well to the kind of defensive system that we like to play. So it's just one of those things, not a good fit with us. Maybe he does something in New York, but I don't think the Hurricanes are going to be hating life too much without him.
No, I don't think so either. I think we got a lot of excitement coming in. And speaking of excitement, let's stay locked in on Stanky as he gets wrapped up for 8 years. But guess what? That's actually 9 years total because we still had him on another year on his previous contract before these 8 kick in. So we've got him for the next 9 years in Carolina, even though the contract is 8, only about $6 million AAV. I think we can all agree that this is a great keep, and I think the money's right where it needs to be. Is anyone thinking overpayment here, or are we agreement that that's probably where we're all comfortable having him on the roster with?
Yeah, I think it's a great contract. I think that pretty much in like 4 or 5 years, we'll look at this contract and be like, I can't believe he's only making $6 million a year. He's the kind of guy that will work his ass off to make sure he's on the ice. Like, he's not a guy that's just gonna, I got paid, I'm gonna, just do whatever, do the bare minimum. I think he's gonna work his ass off to make sure he's the best he can be. Granted, he's a smaller guy still, but I think his skill and I think his shot is great. He's got a great wrist shot that we saw a lot in the playoffs. I think he eventually gets to If he gets to like the 60-point range, this is a steal of a contract, especially with inflation and then the cap going up in the next year. Like year 8 or 9, he's going to be what, 30, 31?
31, yeah.
We're going to have an entire prime of his career. I think it's an amazing deal for us.
Yeah, I completely echo what Andy was saying. I see Jarvis as a 40-plus goal scoring potential kind of guy, 80 to 90 points consistently every year. Like that's Jarvis's ceiling. I would say Stankoven's ceiling, I could see him being a 30-plus goal scorer for a couple of years in his career. I think he has that kind of skill, those kind of hands. But I think the thing that the Hurricanes love most about him is his bulldog tenacity, his ability to get after it on the forecheck, his heart. Even though he's the smallest guy on the ice, he does not play like it. And he reminds me a lot of Jordan Martinook in his play style, not maybe in his happy-go-lucky kind of off the ice demeanor, but in terms of his on ice, like skating 110% all the time, and like that's like only second to maybe Jordan Martinook. And those are the kind of guys that I think really give Rod Brendamore's team the heart that gives that juice that you need to play such a high up-tempo game all the time. So I think this is going to be a great player to keep for the future. And yeah, $6 million per year all the way through his 31-year-old season. Like that's going to be such a good deal down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. I could even see him at the end of that saying, hey, I'm going after a cup or something like that. Hopefully we'll be in those types of situations. And he takes a team-friendly thing where he gives up $1.5 million to get somebody else on the roster. Like that just seems like the kind of guy he is. I'm not saying it happens. Hopefully we have multiple cups by then, but it just seems like that's the kind of guy he is. That's the kind of guy. Tolsky mentioned it in the press conference about he's a guy we like off the ice too a lot, right, as a person. So yeah, I think there's a number of reasons he was kept and re-signed. And so we also did that with Tyson Jost. Smaller deal, smaller money, just 1 year, $775K at the NHL level, because there is an AHL stipulation in there. That's what dollar amount is like the going rate, at least from the Carolina Hurricanes, as we'll see here going on. Any really big news or notes that you guys want to mention as far as Jost is concerned, keeping him, Christian?
I mean, I just thought he was decent in his limited time with the Hurricanes, and he's any championship caliber team needs depth guys like that who can come up at a moment's notice off the AHL team and fill in and play for the big clubs. So he and Juha Jaska are going to be our depth guys, I think, this year.
Nice. Nothing else to say.
Any thoughts? Just
not really depth
gotcha.
guy. Center. That's it.
Nice. Okay. 2 goalies. We'll get to the first one here. And again, these guys, the next 3 deals are all the same. 1 year, $775 at the NHL level, because they all have AHL stipulations within these contracts. Anyone want to take a stab at how to say his name? Amir as the first one. I got that.
Mistakov? I don't know.
No, Miftakov.
Miftakov.
Miftakov. There you go. Well, you practice that, right, Christian?
Every night before I go to bed.
There you go.
So apparently this guy is 25-year-old out of the KHL, had a very, very good season, very good save percentage, good record. Seemed like he was ready to come over to the, U.S. at least to the AHL. Apparently he is Svechnikov's best friend, is what I was reading. Like they hang out in the summers all the time. So apparently Svech is really happy about that as well. But yeah, I think it's a good signing. At least some potential there. You get some guys in the in our prospect pool for goalies, which we really need. And then especially with Spencer Martin leaving, we kind of need one of those. Need a third guy to step up in case something happens with injuries. So I think bringing him in the Premu, who we'll talk about in a little bit, is the reasoning why we brought those guys in.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Miftakov is just I don't know anything about him except just looking at his numbers. He put up insane numbers last year in the KHL, and goalies are weird, man. Like they can pop out of nowhere, so you never know. Like right now, it looks like he's just going to be an AHL goalie, just provide us some depth in case, or I shouldn't say in case, I should just say when Freddie Anderson gets hurt this year. But you just never know, man. We have seen Russian goalies, especially, come over from the KHL. He's only 25. He's not super old. And also, sometimes goalies take a little longer to develop, and maybe he just turns into something really good out of nowhere. I mean, goalies are so hard to predict, man. So you never know. Most like 775 a K a year for just 1 year. Most likely just a depth piece, but who knows? Maybe he catches fire.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't know if we're totally sold on Kochetkov at this point, right? Like, is that another aspect of this? Like, hey, man, if you don't start performing, we're also going to look to replace you. We might be replacing 2 goalies here in the short term. Hopefully not. I don't want to see that happen. I like Piotr. I like how he can play. He just maybe dial back the aggressiveness a little bit. I have not watched enough highlights of Amir here yet to know exactly what his style is. But like you said, I like what you guys are seeing on the stat sheet as well. So we'll see what he can provide, and then we'll see what that means for Caden Primo. And if you recognize that name, yeah, that's Keith's son there. We'll see if we can get Keith back in the building. Maybe I would assume Keith and Rod stay in touch somewhat, right? I mean, both former Flyers, both former Hurricanes. Like,
yeah, but they were traded for each other.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So they never played on the same team at the same time then.
Mm-mm.
Right.
We should be thanking Keith for giving us Rod. So because he forced his way, he forced his way out of Carolina.
Yeah.
So, I didn't remember the details of that, so maybe he won't come back.
But anyways, about Caden. Caden has a very good stat line as well. He was, I believe, Montreal. He was a restricted free agent, so I guess they didn't think they could re-sign him, or he just wanted to go somewhere else. So we ended up actually making a trade. We gave Montreal 7th for the rights to Caden, and then we were able to re-sign him to that 1-year deal.
Yeah, and I can't remember who their goaltenders are in Montreal that they really like now, but there was a time where Caden Primo they thought was going to be possibly one of their goalies of the future or the goalie of the future, but he just wasn't able to find that consistency in the NHL. He does have a decent amount of NHL games under his belt, but here this last year he spent most of his time in the AHL, put up incredible numbers in the AHL though. So yeah, again, I think he's also 25. And so, you never quite know, probably most likely going to be an AHL depth piece, maybe get called up, at some point during the season. But yeah, again, with goalies, you just never quite know when they catch fire.
Very, very true. Back away from the goalies, we signed Mike Riley, and that's a guy we've seen a couple times, as we played the Islanders. Not a huge deal, just a little bit north of what those other contracts for 1 year have been. He gets $1.1 million. Just a depth signing, really. I mean, I don't see him top 6 minutes or anything crazy, right? I mean, what do you guys think of this signing overall, I guess?
Yeah, I think he's mainly a depth piece. I don't think he's going to see too many games this year outside of injury. I think the fact that we went into the Eastern Conference Finals with 2 rookies as our defensemen was a huge issue. And I think to address that, we've added, an actual NHL caliber player, a veteran that could easily slide in and out of the lineup, which we didn't have really at the end of last year, which I think ultimately could have cost us at least a game or 2 in the playoffs. So I think that's their way of addressing that problem that we had last year.
Yeah, he's going to be our 7th defenseman for most of the year, barring injury, and is going to fill in when there are injured guys or in a pinch. I don't know much about his game. I will say from what I saw, analytics actually like him quite a bit for who he is. And at 1 year, $1.1 million, there's basically no commitment there. And hopefully he can fill in for us when we need him. But again, hopefully we don't need him very often this year.
Yeah, hope not, but he is on the roster. We'll see if we see him. Speaking of the roster, let's look at how it breaks down a little bit. Andy found this on Puckpedia earlier today, so shout out to them for making this a quick, easy read. And so since you found this graphic, Andy, start us off. I mean, what do you think? I mean, first of all, do you think these lines will be what we see on the ice, which I would assume no, but tell us what you think on this, how the setup goes.
I don't think these are going to be the ones at all. I mean, Stahl and Martinek are going to be the same. Let's just go ahead and see that. And probably Stankoven on that line as well. My personal opinion is that Aho and Ehlers will be with Svechnikov. Svechnikov playing on his off wing. And then I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think we're going to have to make a move for another center, most likely a number 2 center, because I don't think KK is capable of handling the number 2 center spot. I think at this point in his career, he's the number 4 center at most and a fringe NHL player. I think he's a liability. He's too up and down with his play. He's never been consistent whatsoever. And you saw in the playoffs, he can make some really dumb mistakes that can cost you the game. Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, his penalty led to the turnaround, and we ended up losing that game after being up 2-0. So yeah, I think these are the players that are going to be in the lineup, obviously, outside of maybe one player or so that maybe, who knows what happens with Jankowski in the lineup. I like Jankowski personally. I think he would be a great 4th line center. But I really don't see – I just don't see how we can go into the season with KK, or at least end the season with KK as our number 2 center. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'd rather see Stahl there than KK. Christian?
Yeah, I mean, just really everything that Andy said. Marty's definitely going to be playing with Stahl. There's no doubt about that. And I think Stankoven did look very good on that line. I think his play style complements theirs quite a bit. I think Robinson and Jankowski are guaranteed 4th liners. The real question is going to be how that top 6 is kind of moved around. Where does Hall play? And, also one thing that I think maybe even more interesting is there's one guy that's currently not on this. He's probably on the next page, but it's Will Carrier. Like, he has like another 4 years left on his contract that we gave him. And right now they have him sitting in the press box making $2 million a year for another 4 years. Like, we're paying that kind of money to a guy who's sitting in the press box. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to me right now. Like, it seems like we've got too many wingers. Like, Joe seems like the kind of guy you want sitting in your press box. But you don't want one of the young guys like Stankoven, or obviously not Stankoven. He is making $6 million a year, but you don't want Blake sitting in the back press box, I don't think. Not to mention we've got Bradley Nadeau, who just scored 30+ goals in the AHL this past year as a 19-year-old, and he's a winger. So I don't know, man. Like, we have so many wingers, and so maybe Andy's right. Like, maybe we are going to trade from our depth of wingers and try and find a center, but that's easier said than done. Teams are not willing to give up centers easily. Like, every team's looking for a center. Very few are willing to get rid of one. So they're like, Hurricanes fans might have to get used to the fact we might be going into this season with KK as our number 2 center and just trying to hope and pray to the hockey gods that he works out there. But I don't see that happening. I feel like we've had enough KK time to see like he just doesn't quite have what it takes. And I love the guy. He seems like a great guy, but he's just not the answer there. So maybe that's a trade deadline move, and that's okay, because I think that the team that we have right now on ice is good enough to make the playoffs. Is it good enough to win the Stanley Cup? Maybe not without that second line center, but maybe that's something we can get at trade deadline time.
Yeah, like Christian just said, though, especially the fact that you brought up Carrier there, like, that's a great point. We have to make some deals. Like, it doesn't make sense to have, a guy making $2 million on the bench or like sitting out, you know, in the press box. And then also having a guy like Nadeau. Granted, Nadeau could stay in the AHL one more year and, you know, maybe get better defensively or whatnot. But I think he's ready to step up into the NHL. And you don't want him playing on the fourth line either when he comes up. He's a skill guy. You want him in, you know, at least the top 3 lines, getting some actual playing time. Again, where are you going to put Blake? Are you going to – I mean, I can't see Blake being on the fourth line all year. Like he's another guy that's like a more skilled guy. Is he included in a trade? Is it because to me, I think it's between him and Nadeau are those kind of like, you know, which young guy is going to make it into the lineup kind of deal. Like those guys are competing with each other, in my opinion, because they're similar type players. They're not necessarily great defensively, but they are very offensive oriented players. So yeah, I see us making a move either this off season or early in the season. I really do.
Yeah. And I think it'd be different if it was next year, as you look like, you know, you're probably having Stahl, Martinook, Jankowski come off the books because they're all in their last year of the deal. Plus, they're getting older. You know, I think there was a question mark last year before Stahl re-signed or whatnot or was it 2 years ago that he re-signed? It says year 3 of 4. It feels like it was just last year they had that conversation with him about whether he was, you know, for sure coming back or not. But
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if that's his last year. Stahl's last year is this year. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, for me either. And hopefully we can help him go out on top because I love that guy. I do get frustrated with the physicality lacking with how big he is, but yeah. I mean, we saw Eric lift the cup here. It'd be awesome to see Jordan do it as well. But like Christian said, and I think Andy, you're agreeing with us, like as it's currently made up, this roster is certainly good enough to get you back towards the top of the regular season and get you into the playoffs. And it should get you through first 2 rounds for sure. After that, I think it's going to depend greatly on your matchup and if you run into another hot goaltender. But going back real quick, I do love the defense. I think we've got one of the best, if not the best, defensive cores in all of hockey right now with what we've just done. Nikishin is going to come on stronger next year. I truly believe that. And so we've got some big defensive guys. I think Nikishin and Miller are going to step up the physicality that has been lacking. We've got Slavin, who we all know and agree is the best defenseman in the NHL at all. Maybe not on the offensive side, and that's why he doesn't get thrown around as much. But, yeah, I mean, defense wins championships, so we started there. We just now got to build up through the front end, I feel like. And you know, the goalies I think are serviceable, right? I mean, does anyone think we're still like looking to do anything crazy there, or you think it's really all just about maybe a second line center?
We're set at goalie for better or for worse. It doesn't have anything to do with like, oh, we love our guys. It's just like the goalie market is insane. It's so hard to find a legit 1A, you know, even a 1B goalie. And if you do, you have to pay a king's ransom to get them to pry them off of another team. These days, you're just better off just like signing serviceable guys and just concentrating on playing good defense around them and hoping that you get a young guy developing in your system that can eventually be that guy. That's kind of just where it is in the NHL today. So that's why we signed Anderson to the 1-year deal. It's not because like, oh, this is our guy, he's going to get us to win a cup. It's just that he's good enough to get us there if the rest of the team is good around him. So I don't think that Anderson is going to lose us the Stanley Cup, but it would be nice to have a guy like Bobrovsky who could win us a Stanley Cup. So yeah. I don't know. We'll see. But in terms of the defense, I agree. I think so. We got off to a bit of a slow start last season. Well, we got off to a fast start, but then we hit a lull. And that lull, I think, was in large part because of our defense. And I think we have really addressed a lot of those issues with Miller and with our who am I thinking of? Who was the other guy? And with Nikishin, of course, Nikishin.
Oh, yeah.
So, the one thing on that sheet that we just saw, it for some reason had what's his face? It has Walker as a left shot defenseman. I'm pretty sure he's a right shot defenseman because we only have 2 right shot defensemen. I'm pretty sure it's Chatfield and Walker. So it will be interesting to see. I'm curious what you guys think the defensive pairings are going to be. Obviously, Slavin's going to be on the top pairing. My best guess is to start the year. I think it's actually going to be Slavin, Walker, and then Miller, and he'll have Chatfield there, and then Gossesbear, Nikishin on that third pairing. But I could see it being slightly different as well. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Christian. And it does have Walker listed as a right D-man as well. He says right D/left D.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. I was just looking at the LD.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Christian. I think I could definitely see Slavin and Walker being a pair. I think Walker is pretty good defensively. And then I think Chatfield is our second best defenseman, personally. A defensive defenseman.
Right.
So I could see him with Miller for sure as well. Nikishin Gossesbear, that might be kind of your scary pairing, because those guys could be jumping at the same time, and who knows, because both of those guys definitely have some offensive ability there. I don't trust Gossesbear as much defensively, and having him with a rookie might be a little risky. So who knows where Nikishin's going to play? Nikishin's going to play with? So I don't know, and whatever the pairing here, I don't see Nikishin playing on the right side.
I want to know, I'll tell you what I'd do right now if it was me, and I wouldn't necessarily keep it like this, but I'd try it to see what it looked like. Slavin's the best guy we've got. I'd pair him with Nikishin and say, hey, watch this guy, and also that allows Slavin to be the stay-at-home defenseman and Nikishin to jump up into the rush, which is what he's going to want to do as the young guy. He wants the puck on his stick. He's got that shot from the point that he can hammer. And then I'd put Miller and Chatfield together for sure. I think I just like how that pairing would probably work out. And then Walker and Gossesbear, I think that provides you kind of the more even mix, from my vantage point anyway, for all 6 to kind of gel really well. That doesn't mean it would happen, but that's kind of what I'd do on paper to start with and see how it works.
The only thing I would push back on that would be that Nikishin is a lefty man with a left shot, and putting a rookie in there like that on his offside might be a little too much for him to start out in the NHL, whereas you kind of want him to be more comfortable on his natural side. So I think one of the more veteran guys is going to end up playing on their offside rather than Nikishin's, which would kind of leave him out of the Slavin pairing.
True.
At least
That's a good point.
but who knows?
So I'm assuming Gossesbear gets the start on power play 1 at the point. But who do you guys think? Do you think it's going to be Miller, or do you think Nikishin could end up being the second power play defenseman?
I think by the end of the season, I think it's going to be Nikishin. However, I think maybe Miller starts out on there just because he's more, he's a veteran. He's been there, so who knows? But I think Nikishin ends up being, at least in a year or two, he's the number 1 guy on the PowerPoint, anyways. Power play. We keep on saying PowerPoint, anyways.
What was it that Darren always said? Not the empty net. What did he call it?
Open net.
Open net. The open net goal.
Open netter.
Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, man. All right. We have one last thing before we get out of here, and we don't know as much about these guys, but we do want to touch on it. We had 3 picks in the second round, 2 in the third, a 6th, a 7th, but that's not what we started out with. We made a bunch of trades. We don't know a ton about these guys, like I just said, but, thoughts on the draft overall. Christian, start with you.
I don't know these guys at all. It's so hard. You really have to be in the game to know hockey prospects, and there are some guys that do. So, but you just have to do a lot of homework. I just know what I've read about them. Just to make a long story short, we went after a lot of Russians again. That's a clear strategy by us. If you listen to the comments by Tolsky, it's not like we value Russians more than any other team. It's just that there's a lot of teams that maybe are scared of going after them, and we are not. So we just happen to find a lot of Russians at a lot higher value in the draft, so we're happy to take them. I think us and Montreal are both in that same boat. Montreal's also takes a lot of Russians. Charlie Serrato was an overager. He was actually a double overager. He was 20. But apparently he had a breakout season this past year in college. I think with Penn State, and the team loves him. And from everything that I've heard, he plays like Rod Brindamore style of hockey, and he's a center. So maybe he's a quick developer because he's already 20 years old. Simeon Frolov was by some analysts considered the best goalie in the draft. And hey, he's a Russian goalie. Maybe he turns into the next Sorokin, or who knows. And then the last thing that I think, Limatov and Balzov are both huge defensemen, like really big physical stature. And then Ivan Ryabkin is far and away the highest ceiling and the lowest floor. He is the boomer bust from everything that I've heard. He's got insane skill, insane talent, but he's burned some bridges back in Russia. He kind of saw his way out of the KHL. There's some questions about locker room or work ethic or all of that stuff. But in terms of his talent, he's an actual first round talent that we happen to get late in the second round.
Nice. I thought you said you didn't know anything about these guys, but that was pretty good.
I didn't do that homework. I just read up on articles that other guys did. So,
okay.
And I'll kind of expand on some of that stuff as well. As far Simeon Frolov, or whatever you say his name, I'm going to say all these names incorrectly. He was our number one goalie we had on our draft board. So I know that when we were trading back, that we were kind of getting a little worried that somebody might take him, but we ended up trading back twice. And what we ended up getting, 2 additional second round draft picks. So that we got our guy basically in the second that we were looking for. And I'm assuming we didn't want to take him that early into the first, because, like Christian said before, you never know with goalies how they're going to pan out. So, take your shot when you can, but who knows if they pan out. That Ivan Rybinkin, I can't. How do you say his name, Christian? Say it.
Ryabkin. That's how I'm going. That's what I'm going.
I was way off. Anyways, apparently his shot is amazing. I saw a bunch of tweets from people that were at the, I guess the rookie showcase or whatever you want to call the introduction. Yeah, that were at that, and they just kept on talking about how his shot is phenomenal. So anytime you hear that about a prospect, and you're obviously seeing him play against other prospects, and he stands out that much, that's a real good indication that he's got that talent. It's just a matter of work ethic, because apparently he came in for some of the pre-draft evaluations, and he seemed like he was out of shape. So who knows with him? Maybe it's nothing, and he turns out to be awesome. But another thing I want to bring up is that Limatov, I guess that's how you say his name, we actually traded up for him versus how we always trade back. So to see that we actually did that shows that how much value they have in this guy. From what I understand, he's a really big, tall, smooth skating defenseman. So we were apparently surprised that he was there, so we actually went up and got him, which is not something we do very often. Oh, also, Philip Ekberg. He's a smaller guy with a lot of offensive upside. He's a very skilled guy. Reason he fell, obviously, because he's smaller, but apparently he had his OHL season started kind of slowly. Apparently he had something going on, some sickness or something going on. So he didn't really get going until the end of the year, but he ended up in the I don't even know if it's like the under 17s or the World Championships for Sweden.
Sweden.
He ended up putting up like 18 points in like 8 games or something like that. He was the MVP for the tournament. So that shows you kind of the potential this guy has. Again, small guy, who knows how they're going to turn out. But I think we took a lot of big swings in this draft, which is kind of what we usually do. I mean, you think about Nikishin, he was a 3rd round pick. And what he's going to turn out to be great for us. So I like our draft. I loved it. I think we got a lot of value from what I hear. Again, we don't follow the NHL draft other than maybe some of the top guys. So we don't know some of these depth, these later round picks. But from all the analysts that graded them, said we had a great draft. So I'm all down. I trust our scouting staff. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And one that they don't have on here for prospects. This kid was on the ice the week before the prospects camp, but John Cressetto, most improved camper at Hurricanes camp last week.
Oh, yeah.
An award
There you
given
go.
to him by Shane Willis, the great
Oh,
former
okay.
Hurricane.
Nice.
So he's
Nice, dude.
stepping his game up. Keep an eye on him to make waves in the future.
Heck
But
yeah.
yeah, no, that I just wanted to throw that out there. Shout out to him. I did not expect that award. They didn't tell the parents that was coming. It's just they give out 3 awards at the end, and he got the last one, and that's what it was. Most improved camper. So yeah,
Cool.
pretty cool. So I'm glad we lived in the area where we can get him in front of people who know what they're doing and get to play on the same ice the Hurricanes go over there and practice on. So that is pretty cool stuff. Guys, I know we don't really have a set schedule. Besides all this news that just came out now, who knows when we'll jump on here and do this again, but we do plan to go and do some recordings, maybe some lives over the off season continuously, probably just not on a very scheduled pace because of vacations and work and life. But we are happy to continue doing this. We had a lot of fun. Christian, Andrew, and I have been talking about doing this for, I don't know, what, 3 years probably before we got into it in the playoffs here finally this year. So we're having fun with it. We're going to continue to do it and bring it to you guys. So if you like what you see, what you're watching, click subscribe, click like, leave us a comment, and we will see you guys next time. Any final words real quick, fellas, before we jump out of here?
No.
Go get a center. Go get a center.
Let's go get a center. Absolutely.
Agreed. See you guys next time.